the greatest achievement in human history was the U.S. government program. Of course, I'm talking about NASA's Apollo program that landed a man on the moon, which we recently celebrated the 50th anniversary of. Now, that shows that we don't need capitalism to achieve the greatness of human achievement. And even when you're talking about capitalist corporations, the ones that are doing the innovating are not those the CEOs, the people in the C-suite, the executives. It is the rank and file engineers and scientists working for that corporation. They are the ones doing the creating the new inventions, getting the patents. But of course, as a rule, the employees of corporations do not enjoy any residual payments from the inventions they create and are patented. They are they give up their rights, their patent rights. They give up the payments. They get their name on the patent, but they don't get any income from that patent. They give that up, the income, patent income, in exchange for a regular paycheck through their employer, the corporation. That's normally how it works. And so those innovators, they're not the ones that are being motivated by greed. Their paycheck stays the same, regardless of how many inventions they create or don't create. So what are they being? So the motivation isn't there. They're not like some lab rats that some of the free market capitalists like to portray the humans as though the only way that they'll get any initiative to do any work and any innovations is either through the lure of the carrot of wealth or the stick of poverty from behind. And so they're just that's the false belief, the false narrative that is being portrayed by the free market capitalists. But humans are much more complex than that. I like to think there's a certain irony that one of the favorites of the free market capitalists capitalist libertarians is Ayn Rand. And what's interesting, the irony there is that Rand recognized that humans are, if you look at her books, I haven't read too much of her books. I've seen at least one of the movies. I can't remember exactly which one that was. But regardless, the characters, the heroes of her books were not motivated by greed. There was something, they were motivated by the challenge of a given situation, the desire to create, to improve things. The movie I'm thinking of, I think the hero in that movie, I believe, was Gregory Peck. And if you go back to that one, was it The Fountainhead? I wasn't even planning on talking about Rand for this video, but things pop into my mind. I should have looked that up. But that character was not motivated by greed. Not at all. That was not his. He was not looking for payment as he was an architect in that movie. And he was not. It's based on her book, one of her books, and the character was not looking to. He was not driven by the desire for more wealth. He was trying to create what is in his vision of a better architectural masterpiece of a building. And so, when you look at it that way, then why do we need the capitalism in the first place? We can look at Ayn Rand. her reasoning as the reason why we don't need capitalism. Instead, we can have a form of communism, resource-based communist system. Because humans are not motivated primarily by greed. They're much more complex creatures and that have a desire to improve things. Now, of course, I do not, from pretty much everything else under the sun, I disagree wholeheartedly with Ayn Rand, but I can agree with that point. I think I agree with her on that point about the nature of human motivation to innovate and create and invent is not we're not lab rats always in search of money, and we're not only motivated by the search for money or to avoid the poverty, but so we can create a whole different system that is not based on that the capitalist free market capitalist system. Instead, we could have a system where everything is more modeled on the same model we used for the Apollo program, moon program, but transferring those same principles over to other fields such as medicine and energy, telecommunications, you name it. Everything could be owned by all the basics. We could have the whole basics of society, at least the needs, are all owned by the government. And on the side, as a sideshow, we have people who want to engage in free market, or not necessarily. I don't know. Don't like to calling it free market. We'll call it a market. People who want to make something. Say a craftsperson wants to, an artist, a craftsperson. We could go back to. I think we could, with all this automation. So I know some people like to have their own business. They like to offer for sale their own whatever they do create. People like to be independent in that regard. And also, even if we do create this resource-based economy, that may create a certain obsolescence of a lot of the careers out there. And so there's a lot of people that still might want to have a career. They might get a certain sense of self-worth from their jobs. Not everybody is like myself, who has their heads in the cloud, is always thinking of different ideas, and I don't identify with whatever job I happen to have at any given time. But a lot of people do, and so we're not everybody is like us, intellectuals. So maybe we need to find a way to have a place for these anybody who wants a job, either wants a job or wants their own small business. And one idea I thought there is we can have an artisan crafts people where we go back to some of the older professions of the pre-industrial era. And they also existed during, but many exist now today, to a much smaller scale. A lot of the artisans' crafts careers, like the cobbler, the cooper, the candle maker, the blacksmith. People could create their own artisan crafts that sort of thing like you might see on Etsy also, where people could have their own. They do want a career, could enter into the artisan manual craftsmanship type of field, where since so many other careers are being replaced by automation, if they want a career. But we can also have a situation where, in a resource-based economy, where a UBI, universal basic income, can be, everybody can have that, so that they don't have to work. They can get by without working little or at all, maybe not even work at all. But so at the same time, I think I like the RBA, the resource-based economy. I like to transition into that, but I have often criticized the Venus Project, also the Zeitgeist movement, for not really going very in depth or at all into transitioning to from where we are right now, point A, to point B, this utopian resource-based economy. So we need to look at it. Well, where are we now, and how do we get as much as possible to a resource-based economy? And where we are now, and I think we can start the transition, is by the government, the people owning some entities, such as even if it's like a factory. I'm thinking right now, recently there was a announcement that there's going to be a cannery closing in a small town in Minnesota. It's a food cannery, like vegetables and such. It's a small town. They're going to be without a jobs. So it's almost 400 jobs if you include the seasonal employees of the cannery, and that's going to have a devastating impact, I think. Really, it's going to be, if not devastating, it's certainly going to be harmful to the economy of that small town. And so, why can't the state of Minnesota buy up that cannery and run it and pack vegetables, canned vegetables, sell vegetables at your local market, or I mean markets anywhere where they can sell it, and they put a whole Minnesota brand name on there. State of Minnesota can own the cannery, sell the canned vegetables at grocery stores in the state of Minnesota or around the country. I mean, certainly could do that. That's what I advocate for. I think that's what we need to do as we transition into more of a resource-based economy. We need to do things like that. Another thing we need to do is start manufacturing pharmaceuticals and medical devices also, whether it's a state or nationalizing, whatever. Either one's fine, either one's good, but we need to get away from this idea where we have to go through the market to get any product to the consumer. Especially in the case of pharmaceuticals. I mean, with that cannery idea, it would still go through a market, like a grocery store market, but in the case of the pharmaceuticals, medical devices, that would be more of a case of it's not really a market so much as just it'd be distributed according to need, and or either for free or at cost to the patients that need those products, so that we can avoid the price gouging that many patients are facing, especially in the case of insulin or EpiPen type devices. That goes back to where we started from, this idea of innovation. So now, if let's see, what I think we should do is eliminate patents at least for all medical devices and pharmaceuticals. And the free market capitalists are going to squawk, well, why? Well, where's the motivation to innovate, to invest in innovation? Going to be if there's not going to be a reward at the end of the patent process, developing some drug, and of course I'd say, well, if you don't want to do it, then that's fine, because the government can do the innovating. And the engineers are the ones that are going to be innovating anyways, so we'll just hire them. It'll be the same thing for them as when they were working for a corporation, these scientists and engineers. But now, when they're working for the government, we can direct them to do their research and development according to the needs of the patients rather than according to the needs of the shareholders of the corporation. And so that's what we should have been doing all along. I think we need a patient-based medical economy rather than the current market-based system. And the original moonshot program Apollo moon program demonstrates that how successful government programs can be. And indeed, oftentimes the cancer research has been described as a moonshot And ironically enough, it's ironic since there's so much money of the supposed moonshot cancer cure search is done from money coming from capitalists into the capitalist pharmaceutical field to get them to supposedly come up with some cure for cancer, even though their pharmaceutical corporations have the only mandate for them is to benefit the shareholders of their corporation, not the patients. So I don't see why they think that kind of moonshot program will necessarily work when the original moonshot program was not to benefit the shareholders, but to benefit the nation, the U.S. first and foremost, but really in the entire world. Was that the original goal of the original Apollo moonshot program. So yeah, just as those engineers that were able to develop the science and engineering needed to get a man on the moon were not motivated by greed, we can do the same thing for everything else, including the pharmaceuticals, medical devices, canneries, what have you. So it's a completely false narrative that you'll hear from. Let's see, if you look at some old videos of Milton Friedman, who claims that everybody's getting, only way they do things is if they're motivated by greed, which, as I've shown, is obviously false. People have much more complex motivational reasons for doing things. It can be competition from colleagues, give me a healthy competition between colleagues, and then you can have also there's the prestige of having your name on as being doing some research that has some new discovery or new invention. You can have your name on the it's like we're social creatures, and like to know, everybody else is seeing what I have achieved here. That's motivation, and there's just the process of inventing itself is that in itself is a challenge that people enjoy. I remember Tesla wrote something about that, how that was the greatest enjoyment for him. It sounded like it was just the inventing process of itself. So yeah, people do not need to be they're not lab rats. They're just motivated only by greed. That's absurd, and it's been shown obviously false, according to, if you look back at history. So that's the only points I was trying to make. I guess that's good enough for now. Thank you for watching. Yeah.